the Miniature Garden Shop. Today I'm going to share a few ideas for bringing some Halloween fun to your miniature gardens. This is one of my gardens that I've been growing all summer, and I'm going to decorate it for Halloween and set it outside by my front door to enjoy for the season. So, as we're getting started here, I've got my garden all pruned up, and you can already see that there's a little bit of fall color started. There's a little bit of yellow leaves on the wire vine, and there's a little bit of fall color due to the cold temperatures that we've been having. A little bit of fall color started with the sedum ogon along the edge, so you already have that bit of a fall feel just from the plants. If your gardens are still really green and you don't have that fall feel, there's a couple things you can do to achieve that kind of autumnal look. One easy thing to do is to use a little bit of a fall garland to decorate along the edge of the fence, and that'll definitely bring those oranges and reds and gold colors of fall real quickly to your little garden. Okay. Another thing you can do is to use a few clippings. Here I've got some clippings of some pine needles and some dry grass clippings, and if you sprinkle those around, I just used a pair of scissors to cut them up into little miniature pieces, and you can sprinkle those right in the garden to give you a little bit of that feel of fall. Sprinkle a few more here. You could also cut a few of the leaves off of the garland and sprinkle those around for that fall look as well. Another easy little tip for fall and Halloween decorating is I've taken a few stems of the little carex that I've got growing in one of my gardens to make a little miniature, like a little corn shock. So this little bit of carex, this one happens to be Carex Little Midge, is going to turn all yellow and golden, and it'll look like a miniature set of corn stalks there. And I'll just stick it maybe in the corner of the garden, or it could go in the front of the garden like so, and as that yellows up, it'll really give you that look of fall. And I tied it off with just a little bit of twine. So maybe we'll set that. We'll put it to the corner so we can see everything that's going on in the garden. So that'll bring a little bit of yellow to that edge once it fully dries. Next thing that I kind of look at is the condition of my furniture and my accessories. And because everything has been outside all summer, it's all aged, and so it has that nice rustic look to it. Because everything is so rustic, I think it might be a good idea to use like a clear coat spray to bring a little bit of a shine back to some of the pieces. Really shiny elements draw the eye to the garden and really stand out, and it's the contrast and having a few elements that stand out that make a garden really interesting. So I could use a clear coat spray maybe on the birdhouse or on the bird bath to bring it back to new. Or another thing I could do, that I think I'll do in this garden, is just to switch out this bench for a copper colored one. It has that copper color look of fall, and a little bit of shine is really going to stand out. And I'll turn it here so you can see that. So then the easy thing to do, just like when you're decorating your house for Halloween, is to go out and buy some pre-made decorations and set them around, and that's the quickest way to get that Halloween feel. So maybe just a little pumpkin decoration out front by the gate, maybe a little bat. We can change out the birdhouse here, maybe go for a spooky chandelier. Stick that right back into the garden. You want to make sure when you're hanging anything on a shepherd's hook in your little landscape, you want to be sure that it hangs free and clear of the hook itself. So if this was catching it all, I'd want to just extend that hook so that everything was hanging freely. There we go. In that little basket that we have, maybe fill it with a few pumpkins. Maybe even a black cat out by the gate. And then to be really obvious so people don't have any question as to why you're decorating, a little Happy Halloween sign on the fence. We've got the nice metal bird bath there. Just one quick little thing would be to add a little spider to that bird bath. And the bird bath is a good place to put the spider because it'll stand out. If you were to put that same little spider, say on one of the plants, it would get totally lost. But when you have it against a plain backdrop where you can really see it, and when it contrasts against what it's setting on, you really get the full impact of the little guy. So that's a good spot for him. Now maybe we'll go for a witch's theme in this garden and put a little hat on the bench, just like she might have flown in and left her hat. Let's see. Next, maybe add a little cauldron with a little bit of, we'll make some purple potion here with some purple reindeer moss. That'll also bring a little bit of color to the miniature garden. And I think we'll use this corner of the garden to put our cauldron in. And we could just set that there and maybe add a little broomstick with it. But we can go one step further and build a little fire. Here we've built a little fire. And all I've done to make that, since I'm not real good at making campfires, be it miniature or otherwise, I started off with a grapevine star and then just used it as my base and then glued some little twigs to it to make my little fire. Then what I'm going to do is take a couple of sticks that have a little V-shaped crotch there and put them on either side of my little fire. And you'll notice too that I put that little campfire right on top of a stone. And again, that's just to have a better contrast. If I were to put that little campfire right onto the wood, or right onto the ground, or the soil, which is also dark and brown and gray, you wouldn't see it as well as you do now that I have it up on that stone. Then I'll take my little cauldron and put it through another stick on top. And find that little witch's broom, maybe set it right next door. And I've got a great little Halloween scene. I think we'll take that bee's keep out. It's looking a little too summery for my liking. Stick our little broom there. Maybe stick, wherever I disturb the soil, I like to put something back to make it look like an intentional space again and not like something's missing anymore. So by adding a few little rocks back in there, I kind of mask the fact that I've disturbed the soil there. So now we've got a great little Halloween look to our miniature garden. If you'd like to go a little bit spookier, a little bit creepier than just doing witches, we could do something like a little cemetery using little miniature tombstones. And I think we'll put our little cemetery where we had our bird bath. We'll get rid of our little witches theme here. Now this is the area that I want to make into my little graveyard. So I'm going to clear it of the plants that are here. So I want to have plenty of room to make my garden, or to make my graveyard, excuse me. Just pinch off those plants that are in my way. Okay. Then I'm going to pick out a couple of tombstones, maybe add a little sphagnum moss so that I've got a blank slate to start working with. Okay, then I'll maybe put a couple of my tombstones in for my little graves. There, and to really get that look of a graveyard, we'll actually mound up a little bit of soil in front of each. We'll say that these are fresh little graves. I like to get rid of any of the little bright white pieces of perlite that happen to pop up from my potting soil. I think they kind of ruin the illusion of this being a real landscape when you see those bits of perlite. So I've got 2 mounds now here for my little graveyard. And then to make those stand out even more, you could outline those little graves with a few little rocks. Okay, so there's 2 little graves that we've made. We could also add a few of these little tombstones, maybe just in some plants. And make that look like an entire little cemetery along the edge here. Then on the opposite side, in keeping with that same graveyard theme, we're going to do a little wheelbarrow on the other side, like the little grave digger's work site. Okay, so what we can do is to then take our rusty old wheelbarrow and maybe fill it with rocks, would be one way to go, and then put an old shovel next to it and maybe set a couple of those tombstones just right in it, like he's getting ready to go fill another grave. Or if you're even more morbid or onto the scary side of things, you could take that wheelbarrow and maybe fill it with some bones. So say some rib bones, maybe an arm, clavicle and a femur. Just stick some pieces in there. And all I've done is take one of our little skeletons, little Mr. Bone skeletons, and cut up his parts there, and we're going to use them. That's what we use to fill that wheelbarrow. You could also, say your grave digger's not real good, stick a few coming right out of the ground for a creepy look too. So we've added those spooky pieces, and maybe now we'll put a different kind of a sign out, so we're making more of a scary garden than one that's so much fun. Maybe we can add a few of the pumpkins, but maybe outside the cemetery. We could even change, if that chandelier doesn't seem quite right to you in the cemetery, maybe make that a lantern for the cemetery scene. Instead of the bench, you could even do one big grave in the back with its own skeleton attached. And now we've got our little miniature garden all decorated with a spooky scene for Halloween. For more ideas, please visit us at www.miniaturegardenshop.com and follow us on Facebook.